Today we are going to talk about the CNS tumor. What we have Assistant Professor of Neurotherapy in JPMC. So, silent tumor. Okay, it's a lengthy one because it's too much material in this one because it involves the central and peripheral nervous system. The objectives of today's presentation are how to classify CNS tumors, how to describe general characteristics of CNS tumors, identify tumor type in relation to age and size of the tumor, describe primary peripheral nerve sheath neoplasm with clinical relevance. This is the normal anatomy of the brain. We see the yellow part is the frontal, the purple is the parietal, this is the temporal, and blue is the occipital, here is the cerebellum, and then the brain stem. These some special areas are marked in circles, like this one is Broca's area or motor speech area. This is the sensory speech area. This is reading and comprehension area. The precentral sulcus gyrus, the precentral sulcus gyrus is part of the frontal lobe, which is also known as motor strip. This is the sensory strip. So why this is important? According to certain tumor locations, if they are affecting these areas, the result is obvious. If motor stress is being involved by a tumor, motor activity in the limb, upper or lower will be impaired. If the lesion or the tumor is compressing the sensory cortex or the sensory stress, of course there will be abnormal sensation in the side opposite to the side of the lesion. Why? Because a right side of brain controls left side of the body and left side of brain controls the right side of the body. Okay. Another picture which is important for you to know, brain is divided in two parts, the supratentorial and the infratentorial. Tentorial is minded, the tentorium cerebelli is located only in the posterior trabecular fold, but this is the level above which part is also called as forebrain and below this is called hindbrain. In other words, this is the supratentorial part and this is infratentorial part of the brain. But tumors in adults are more commonly based in anterior fossa or supratentorial location, whereas childhood tumors are usually more commonly in the posterior fossa and infratentorial location, and they're mostly highly malignant tumors of childhood. CNS tumors do not metastasize outside the brain and spinal cord. Even benign tumors can be sinister according to location. Tumor origin. They can arise from neuronal cells, the glial cells, nerve sheath, meningeal, other cell types, and of course metastatic. The glial tumors and non-glial tumors, which are considered to be the primary brain tumors, constitute almost 60 to 70% of the brain 30 to 35%, like astrocytoma. These are glial. Non-glial here, they involve the meninges, the cortex, the Schwann cells, the pituitary, pineal, and the lymphoma cells within the brain. And 20 to 30% of tumors are metastatic, usually from lung, breast, melanoma, renal, and colon cancer. They frequently metastasize to brain. Classic CNS tumor classification. The primary, usually one, half, two, three, four. And metastatic are one fourth to one half. In bracket, like in 50-50, in case of 50% are primary and 50% are metastatic. Or you can say 3/4 are primary and only 1/4 are metastatic. In primary tumors, dose of radiation is done according to the biological behavior into grade 1 to 2. What is primary behavior of a tumor? How quickly it is progressing, how quickly it is damaging the surrounding structure, how quickly it is availing its own blood circulation, angiogenesis is biology, depending on its of recurrence. Okay, Arjun's current under current classification, these lesions of different grades are given distinct names, like CNS tumor classification. Primary tumors, they can be gliomas, neuronal, or glioneuronal tumors, poorly differentiated tumors, other parenchymal tumors like primary lymphomas, germ cell tumors, pineal tumors, tumor of the meninges like meningiomas, tumors arising from nerve sheaths like schwannomas and neurofibromas. Primary tumors, which are of course gliomas, and they, the common knot among these gliomas are astrocytomas, 80%, and adenomas, followed by oligodendrogliomas and ependymomas. How they are graded, it is not important for you, but with each grade high, they are more aggressive tumors. Gliomas. A few words about gliomas. The benign astrocytoma or grade 1 glioma, which is frequently occurring in children and it is frequently located in the posterior ventral fossa in the cerebellum. Infiltrating type of gliomas, they are frequent in adults. Cerebral hemispheres are frequently involved. Oligodendrogliomas, they occur in 4 to 6 decades and usually in the cerebral hemisphere. Ependymoma, there are two age groups, in childhood and adult group. In childhood group, they are usually located in the fourth ventricle, and in adults, they are usually found in the spinal cord. Histological appearance of low and high grade appearance along with their detail, how nasty look is there in high grade and low grade will be difficult to differentiate from the normal tissue. This is a palimpsetic pattern or low grade glioma and it is located in the cerebellar hemisphere. It has actually two parts, the solid part and the cystic part. The solid part is this one and cystic part which is surrounded by thin membrane. While performing this surgery or target or aim is to totally reject this solid part because this is the source of producing this fluid. Actually, the tumor is very slow growing, but the fluid is produced by this is acting like a malignant malignant process because of its compression of the surrounding normal brain tissue. So, when performing surgery on parasitic sarcoma, our goal is to remove this solid part of the tumor and peel off this cyst along with its fluid or separately separating the fluid and peeling off the fluid from the normal parenchyma. Ependymoma located within the foreventricle. We have bones, the brainstem, the cerebellum, and this is the foreventricle. Then again a ependymoma predominantly located foreventricle and compressing the right cerebellar hemisphere. Undifferentiated tumors like medulloblastoma. They are predominantly found in children, and in children they constitute approximately 20 to 30% of the childhood tumors. They are in the posterior fossa or cerebellum. They are highly malignant but radiosensitive. Atypical tumors. These are undifferentiated. You know, blastoma, what is blastoma? Blastomas are actually embryonal cells. They are undifferentiated cells. They can be found anywhere in the body, as soon as it can be in the brain. These blast cells get kind of their growth or division got arrested during early childhood, but after birth, these cells start growing in unproportionate and increased growth rate. Their cell division will be uncontrolled, like apoptosis will be not effective on these cells. Now coming to the atypical teratoid of blood tumor, children less than 5 years and this one prognosis. I know this is a quite uh, harsh or dry lecture for you all, but what to do, I have to give it to you. You have to listen to me. Okay, so medulloblastoma arising from the roof of the fourth ventricle, posteriorly cerebellum, anteriorly the brainstem, eroding everything. Each part is very dirty looking. See, CNS tumor classification, the metastatic one, which constitutes half to almost half of the CNS tumors, half to one-fourth are metastatic tumors. The most common sites from where metastasis to CNS occurs are the breast, the lung, the skin, the kidney, and GIT. Metastatic appearance. So where will be the location of metastatic tumor? Metastatic tumor. How metastasis occur? Metastasis most often appear at the border of the gray and white matter in the distribution of the middle cerebral artery. You know why? Because the middle cerebral artery is the major blood supply to the brain. So there are greater chances of metastatic cells delivered through middle cerebral artery and uh, to to the junction of the gray and white matter. Why again gray and white matter junction? Because of the bifurcation of arteries over here. They will divide like a straight artery passing like this. They will divide into horizontal or branches like they form a T. So there they get trapped. So there they start uh, their activity. Meningeal tumor. The anterior cranial fossa, bone very nicely cut. The sinuses, the frontal nasal sinuses are visible over here. Here we see para, parasagittal tumor arising. So that is a classification of meningiomas. We have skull-based or skull-based meningiomas, convexity meningiomas, parasagittal meningiomas. This is the sagittal sinus area starting from interior, but this is within the split two layers of the dura lying on the upper surface of the brain, coming from inferior to posterior. We have two partitions within the brain. One is the tentorium and the other one is the fox. They are classified either fox or skull base like in this case. See, it is also attached to the basal part. So it can be skull base or it can be fox meningioma. Here we have This is the brain, and this is the dura covering the brain, and this is the tumor elevated along with the dura, from, separated from the parenchyma. Like this part was compressing the cortex of the brain. These meningiomas are notorious about their compression, their vascularity. They are benign tumor, but they are the most difficult cases to be operated upon because of their form and fibrous nature, inconsistency, and they are very vascular. You will have arrange blood before handling or operating upon these surgeries. You might not need even a single kind of blood, but you might need like 4 to 5 pints of blood in operating on angiogram. In our societies, people they usually come with brain angiomas very late. They have reached to the size of a tennis ball or even bigger. Only then they come to us. Believe me, it's very disappointing. In our setup, in our societies, the health is secondary. The daily requirements have, the poor societies, they are usually up to their bread and butter. They don't pay attention to their health. In attempt to save money, their size, the tumor size will reach to a big size. Only then they will present to us, so it's coming across severe difficulties in operating upon these patients. Peripheral nerve sheath tumors. They are divided into schwannomas, neurofibromas, and malignant peripheral nerve sheath tumors, abbreviated as MPNET. Schwannomas usually arise from intracranial nerves, like this is the acoustic neuroma arising from the intracranial nerve. Schwann cells will cover the nerve within the cranial cavity. Outside they will be the which cells will be there? Myelin. Okay, so Schwann cell covering is actually the outer covering of the nerve fiber. The mass region here is arising in a acoustic or exterior nerve in the cerebellum angle. This is the pons, this is the cerebellum, and this is the angle layer forming. So patients that present with hearing loss, these benign neoplasm can be removed totally. In summary, how you will classify the childhood tumor? We can classify it as medulloblastoma, the high-grade pilocytomas, the low-grade ependymomas in the posterior quarter, choroid plexus papillobas are located in the lateral ventricle. Adult tumors are gliomas, spinal ependymomas, oligodendrogliomas. Peripheral nerve uh, PNS tumors, peripheral nerve system tumors. They are the cutaneous reflective forms of neurofibromas, schwannomas, malignant peripheral nerve sheath tumors. How the neurofibroma will look like? It is neurofibroma, but plexiform one. See, plexiform. Very diffuse. Again, plexiform neurofibroma of the face. How CNS tumors will present? Symptoms of primary field tumors slowly progress. Symptoms from metastatic tumors more acute and very short history, and they will deteriorate very quickly. Grow more rapidly and associated with edema, hemorrhage into the tumor. Why these metastatic lesions are notorious? Because they will have surrounding edema, which will be disproportionate to the tumor size. Means there will be a tumor of 2 centimeters, but surrounding edema will be of 10 centimeters. Hemorrhage can occur into the tumor. Patient will certainly deteriorate due to a sudden increase in size of the tumor. may present with generalized symptoms from increased intracranial pressure or focal symptoms from areas of compromise or the area where it is present. Generalized symptoms like headache, change in mood or personality, decrease in appetite, nausea, vomiting, focal symptoms. In frontal lobe, what will be the focal symptom? Maybe massive, the tumor will be massive before symptoms go. There will be progressive difficulty with concentration and memory, personality change, and lack of spontaneity. There will be urinary incontinence and gait disorder. Appearance of primitive reflexes in bifrontal disease. Parietal lobe, there will be subtle signs or more dramatic like heavy anesthesia. We mentioned it in our initial slide. The sensory step is located within the parietal lobe. So, the right-sided will present with spatial disorientation or left homonymous hemianopia. Left receptive aphasia or right homonymous hemianopia. You know well, and I'm sure you've done it in eye. What are these hemianopias? Hemianopias. Temporal tumors usually present with personality changes or auditory hallucinations, complex partial seizures, and chondrodysplasia. Ankle herniation is large enough. Metastatic spread of primary CNS tumor outside CNS is very rare. Spread to meninges and spinal cord occur with most malignant CNS tumors. How you will evaluate the patient? Careful neurological examination of course after taking. Performing a CT scan and MRI. MRI is superior in two senses. Especially it is very clearly helpful in picking up the lesion in the posterior fossa. CT scan is deficient in this regard because of narrow space and compact prominences, bony prominences, it will cause artifacts in the image quality. So MRI is the best in case of CNS tumor detection. CT scan without contrast is not adequate. Cerebral angiography only when tumor blood supply need is prior to resection. Biopsy. Accurate histological diagnosis can be established after biopsy. It can detect other diseases like abscesses, open craniotomy or MRI guided or CT scan guided stereotactic techniques can be used to take a biopsy. If there is a difficulty in picking and in concluding your diagnosis, whether there is absence or a tumor or which type of tumor it is appearing on CT or MRI. So when you have certain these difficulties, you have to go for biopsy before uh, going into complete resection of the surgery. In brachyparticular patients with aesthetic tumor, CNS biopsy helps in identifying primary site. Sometimes you don't know where the primary tumor lies. Like in case of MET, you have to screen the whole body, especially the chest, the breast, the lung, uh, the prostate, the bone, etc., the colon, lumbar puncture. Have some only if suspect leptomeningeal involvement. It is contraindicated when intracranial mass lesion is present because transtentorial or transforamen magnum herniation can occur when you perform LPs in a patient with raised intracranial pressure. Treatment. Surgery. Most patients with primary tumors will need surgery. Many patients with solid brain metastasis, again surgery, may relieve symptoms for many months if the bulk tumor when surgical cure is unlikely. Surgical cure means total removal is not possible. So then, even then, you have to debulk the brain, debulk the mass of the tumor to make it uh, smaller in size so that it can no longer compress the brain and patient will get relieved in the sense of the tumor related signs and symptoms which were due to mass effect. So, by demassing or debulking the tumor. And secondly, the benefit of debulking the tumor will be, first of course, is to confirm your diagnosis. Number two, debulking. Number three, uh, um, obtaining a histopathological diagnosis is number two. You debug the brain, and number two, you achieve the histopathological confirmation of the tumor, which is important for next strategy of treatment. Like if total removal is not possible, there is some residual tumor, you have to irradiate or give chemotherapy to those patients. For that, the histopathological diagnosis is important. So surgery is important to debulk and at the same time obtain a biopsy. No extensive resection is required when brain stem tumor is there. Radical resection not recommended for tumors in language or sensory motor area, basal ganglia, or corpus callosum due to neurological dysfunction which may result by totally removing the tumor. Again, surgery is not recommended for CNS lymphoma when there is, because they are usually multifocal and they respond to chemo and radiotherapy very fast. Increase intracranial pressure. How should this be managed? Most patients have brain edema and benefit from glucocorticoids, usually dexamethasone. In life-threatening edema with signs of herniation can give mannitol with dexamethasone. Anticonvulsant should be given, especially in cortical tumors. Radiotherapy, either conventional or brachytherapy or radiotherapy. These are all the modalities of radiotherapy. What is conventional radiation therapy? External beam uses direct access to whole brain or focal area. Whole brain radiation associated with long-term toxicity like dementia and gait disturbances or visual loss. If you are hitting the area surrounding to a particular structure, the surrounding tissue will also be affected and their sun and symptom will appear in delayed fashion. Brachytherapy, implantation of permanent or temporary radiation sheaths within the tumor bed, which allows higher doses to tumors while preserving normal tissue. Now, radiosurgery. What is radiosurgery? Without performing open surgery, you can go opt for radiosurgery. These are There are some limitation of it. It cannot be done in every case. Radiosurgery is indicated for tumors which are smaller in size. Smaller means less than 3 centimeters in size. Because when you perform radiosurgery on a bigger tumor, after surgery, whether conventional or radiosurgery, the initial damage will be to the blood vessels. Blood vessels will end up in initial swelling of the tumor and then gradual shrinkage. If the tumor was already bigger enough and it was already causing its signs and symptoms due to mass effect, if you give radiosurgery or radiation, the mass will further grow up. It can further alleviate the patient, aggravate the patient's already existing complaints by further compressing the normal brain. So, what is radiosurgery? This is converting more than 200 beams of radiation into small, well-defined tumors. Chemotherapy, not used as sole therapy. Major obstacle is the blood-brain barrier. CNS tumors, often they are drug resistant. Biodegradable vapor impregnated with nitrosoureas placed into the tumor after resection. These are more effective than systemic chemotherapy. These are called biodegradable vapor or tumor, chemotherapy, which is placed after tumor resection or partial removal of the tumor and placing these biodegradable vapors within the tumor. Some tumors are though chemosensitive, like oligodendroglioma or CNS lymphoma. No need to go into detail and a plastic background. How this glioma, high-grade glioma, will look like on CT scan? This is necrosis within the tumor. This is the tumor. Uh, Again, brain stem rising tumor going posteriorly occupying the fourth ventricle. This is again glioma, high-grade glioma. Meningiomas arise outside the brain. That's why they're also called extraaxial. Generally grow slowly. Benign in 90% of cases. Complete resection should be attempted. Risk of recurrence proportional to extent of resection. In partial resection, give course of radiation. If malignant radiation is given, chemotherapy not used. Meningiomas are uh, the most common non-glial types of primary brain tumors. They are usually benign, so you have to attempt to remove it totally because we know radiation is helpful in case of highly growing or highly dividing cells. Then there is increased number of mitotic activity. There the radiation is more effective. This in meningioma, there this is not the case. The growth rate is very slow. So radiotherapy is not effective. Chemotherapy is not effective. And thirdly, it is a benign tumor, very slowly growing. You have to remove it totally. But as I said, the difficulty we have in meningiomas in our societies is increased sizes before they present to us. Number, first of all, they will go to Hakim and quakes वगैरह वगैरह दम तावीज वगैरह करने के बाद हमारे पास आ जाते हैं. When the tumor size reaches to a size of a tennis ball, if not a football, of course, it is not the truth, but sometimes we get terrified or afraid by seeing those tumors. Secondly, they are very fibrous. If they are very big, you can't remove it in total. I mean, totally uh, separating it from the surrounding structure and removing it outside. So total removal is not possible. You have to remove it piecemeal. Piecemeal, I mean, you excise small piece of it, obtain coagulation, then go for another small piece, and then again coagulation, then wait like sometimes it lasts 5 to 6 hours in removing big size meningioma. And they are very bloody. You can have severe bleed in these cases. You have to be ready for such blood loss. And before resecting these tumors, you have to arrange 4 to 6 stents of blood. So now this is how meningioma will look. This is a convexity meningioma arising from left occipital, low occipital part of the meninges. This is the right frontal part. Okay, this is the MRI appearance of that same lesion, and this is the sagittal view of that CNS lymphoma. They are increasing in incidence. No evidence of lymphoma outside CNS in F prime. Most often occur deep in frontal lobe, so less likely to present with seizure than other primary metastatic CNS tumors, presenting complaints, headache, personality changes, and focal symptoms. How you will differentiate a lesion? Every tumor have its own particular appearance on CT scan and MRI. No need to go into the details. We are running out of time. Corticosteroid radiation are very effective in case of lymphoma, surgery possibly solitary or easily resistant, and systemic disease well controlled. Not usually respond to chemotherapy because the blood very rarely. Here is a typical looking lymphoma, the solid part, the cystic part, and surrounding edema. Multiple peripheral metastasis can appear the same. So this was not lymphoma, sorry, it is a metastatic lesion, as we have a second tumor. The lymphoma can be multiple. Metastases are usually multiple. Deep within the white matter are lymphomas, but at the cortic medullary junction, they are usually the mets. Spinal cord tumor, we won't be able to finish it completely, just brute for thought. Spinal, much less common than brain tumors. They are divided into extradural or intradural. Most extradural are metastatic from other side. The intradural tumors can be extramedullary or intramedullary. So they can be intradural or extradural. Intradural are further classified into intradural extramedullary or intradural intramedullary. Now, extramedullary tumors are outside the spinal cord, like schwannomas and meningiomas, while intramedullary are arising from spinal cord cells like ependymomas and astrocytomas. Most common location is the thoracic area. Symptoms usually from compression of normal structure or compromise of blood supply, not invasion of the parenchyma. Early symptoms are back pain and distal paresthesia, then loss of sensation and weakness below level of tumor, and loss of bowel and bladder control. MRI most useful and mostly replaced myelogram. Urgent evaluation and progressive deficit. In the spinal tumor, those frequently neurofibroma and meningioma, they are benign, but their effects are very dangerous. They will end up in paraplegia or urinary or fecal incontinence. Just last week, I saw a patient who was in severe back pain and unable to walk a few steps out of the bed. She had been to many routines, many quakes, and some even different specialty people have seen him. All of them have given him gabapentin, metoclopramide. Nobody bothered to check the zone power and reflexes on her limbs. They were upper motor. There was upper motor neuron sign and symptoms with increased reflexes, plantar upgoing, and uh, increased tone in the lower limbs. While upper limbs were well, but lower limbs were very tonic and with increased sign and symptoms of upper motor neuron lesion. MRI showed a big intradural extramedullary tumor. To me, it was looking like a neurofibroma. By 30, but they're still waiting. I don't know why. Food is one of the problems, and recently we have closed the OT and OPD in here in DKMC, so they have to go to shower them if they are not affording in private service. Okay, thank you very much.